we live in an increasingly noisy world. And as my partner often says, we're drowning in a sea of information whilst being starved of wisdom. So with that being said, we're going to have a little chat about how to find investment alpha in a world that's driven increasingly by attention. Your nickname, your blogging name is The Fat Gladiator. That's a pretty attention-grabbing name. Can you share the story behind this and what it means in an investment context, please?
Can you hear okay, everyone? Okay, so yeah. It's a bit of an accident, but I was having lunch with a friend and he talked about the asset management industry being full of fat gladiators. And what he meant by that is that they spent their lives looking at everybody else's business, criticizing them, but really didn't take a good, long, hard look at their own. So that was about 20 years ago when maybe the name was a little bit more acceptable, but essentially it's an oxymoron, which is if you're a gladiator and you're out of shape, it's not really good for your life expectancy. And if you're a company that doesn't see change coming, it's not very good for your life expectancy. So it became my blogging name about 15 years ago, and I stuck with it. And people remember the name, and it's an important thing in this world to remember the name.
Right.
That's basically it.
Thank you. And with that being said, we think collectively that investment stories should do more to grab people's attention. And with that, Nick, you made this video which we're about to share. Do you want to introduce it?
Sure. I mean, look, the bottom line is the financial services industry is full of really, really boring, dull content. And it doesn't really know how to attract people's attention. And you know, we're living in a world of generative AI. There's a content revolution going on. And generally, creatives don't really love financial services, and financial services don't really understand creativity. And yet, these stories that these companies have to tell are fascinating stories, but they don't really know how to tell them in a way that isn't sort of somewhat mind-numbingly dull. So we started making a series of videos about 4 or 5 years ago. And this was one of the first videos I made. And really, it was with a company called Hypnosis, and it was to show people in our investment club the power of music and how music in its own can just uplift a story so that people actually paid attention. And if they paid attention, they're more likely to invest. So I guess with that, I roll wagons.
In the words of Motley Crue's Nicky Six, what's scummy about the music industry is that everybody loves you when you're dead. Well, that's not quite true, because many of the most iconic and loved artists in pop history are still very much alive and kicking. But some of them, like Paul McCartney, Mick Jagger, Bob Dylan and the Eurythmics, are getting older. But what's that got to do with us? Why do we care? Well, we care because their back catalogue of smash hits have a foot-tapping future ahead of them. And that could be a really interesting investment opportunity. So here's the insight. Historically, the global music industry has been the highly protected domain of record labels and their tethered artists. But digital disruption has democratized the assets and could give investors some smash hits of their own. But what does this revolution look like? And why is it music to investors' ears? Time to break it down. Let's start by debunking the myth that the music industry is struggling. It's fair to say that when music went digital, the industry got pummeled. But it didn't die. It just reinvented itself, and now it's growing, forecasted to nearly double in value by 2030. Our analysis points us towards 3 main drivers of this music industry harmony: the increased consumption of music facilitated by technological development, emerging revenue streams and commercial uses for music, and the growth of data analysis and AI to personalize your listening habits. Let's start with the industry's knight in shining armor, its lead singer and its rhythm section. Streaming. The way we listen to music has changed, facilitated by the convenience of streaming platforms.
There. if you like to see the full film, we have a booth in the middle of the room and we're playing lots of different brilliant forms of content. But as you can see, videos are engaging and they're scalable, and clearly they're a great way of capturing investor attention. Nick, we've touched on the impact of generative AI as well. How do you see the future of financial services content evolving?
Well, I think bearing in mind we live in an attention-driven economy, and bearing in mind that probably everybody in this audience streams their films, streams their music, streams every form of content, sport, sort of seems inconceivable to me that we won't end up streaming financial services content. The key is that it needs to be interesting and exciting in order for you to be able to want to watch it. The hypnosis video was really just a way of getting it creatively out of my head, how you might tell an equity story. And you may not think this is a really serious problem, but actually the capital market system in this country is entirely broken. And there are 60,000 publicly quoted companies. And outside of the Magnificent Seven and the top 1,000, there are 59,000 companies that are really dying to find new investors. And they don't know how to, and the regulation is broken. Regulators don't really give clear guidance on what a company could do to garner attention. So we're building something that we've codenamed Shareflix, and we're pretty excited about that. And the reason that we're doing it is because the video that you just saw on hypnosis was about 3 or 4 years old, and it took me about 4 months to write the script, through various iterations. And then it took about 3 months to make, and it cost about £30,000. The one I did last week, which is a Fat Gladiator video, is the equivalent of $1 million advert, $1 million Super Bowl advert, built with $300 worth of software. And I had to pay the guy who was the expert £3,000, £1,000 a day. So there's been a collapse in the price from £30,000, £40,000, excuse me, and 3 months of time to about $300 and about £3,000. And so Shareflix really is being built in anticipation of the second leg of the content revolution. The first leg of the content revolution is really ChatGPT and what it's done for text. The second leg of the content revolution is really going to be text into moving images. And when that happens, when you're able to tell the story of a company's future without a PowerPoint, without a sort of slightly repetitive, I've seen this all before type style, the idea of investment is you're going to make the most money in the stories where they manage to elevate and excite you. Now, obviously, you have to execute as a company. You have to do what you say you're going to do. But there are literally thousands of companies out there doing a brilliant job of execution, but not getting the credit they deserve for the simple reason that they don't know how to tell their story. And there's a lot of very, very deep reasons for that.
And so we've built Shareflix for 2 reasons. One is that we believe private investors shouldn't have to pay to have access to really quality information that tells you about and helps you make better informed investment decisions. So I have colleagues that have stood around here and they're handing out leaflets that takes you to our platform, but it's completely free. It's early stage, but I hope you enjoy it. But it's there and it's built to house the explosion of content that is coming in financial services. And we think that it's really important that, like we said, in an increasingly noisy world, we help investors curate the information that is really important and really insightful. And so that's what Project Shareflix is designed to do. And lastly, Nick, as an extension of Project Shareflix, you run an investor network, and really, you guys source investment alpha in a really interesting way. Would you kind of share what that club does, please?
Well, it's sort of the opposite of what the asset management industry does, which is, again, if you look at the asset management industry through a content lens, it's deliberately invented a language which is designed to cast intellectual superiority over its audience so that it can charge fees. And so the club is really about us being a community. So we have about 250 high net worth individuals and about 200 billion of AUM represented by our members. But acting as a community, we can get any company in the world to speak to us. We run a model portfolio which was up about 48% last year, but that's not me saying I'm a guru, I picked the stocks. I didn't pick the stocks. The members of the club pick the stocks, so it functions off the collective intelligence of the network.
Brilliant. And if you're interested in the network, you can scan the code on screen and over to questions.